Let's do the same thing for wide receivers, and we'll start with Yahoo. The wide receivers that are going earlier in your drafts. Nico Collins, wide receiver 11 for Matthew, wide receiver 17 on Yahoo ADP. Jalen Waddle, 15 for Matthew, 20 on Yahoo ADP. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 18, wide receiver 25 on Yahoo ADP. Let's stop right there.
I mean, dude, like again, it's half-point PPR, but still, like I have Malik Neighbors at wide receiver 18. I might be too low on him. I think wide receiver 18 is probably too low on him.
He has top 12 upside.
1,000%.
It's talent and volume. Literally, the red flag next to Malik Neighbors is Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
That's what's stopping people from drafting him, and I don't know if it's stopping people anymore.
I think in our draft yesterday, he went ahead of Puka Nacua, if I'm not mistaken, which I think is not unreasonable.
Absolutely not.
You can tell everybody in the draft watches this show every day because your Puka takes. Puka was on the board for.
Puka actually went after Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. We're going to get to the draft recap in a second. It is super annoying. In addition to the fact that you guys are a-holes, but in addition to that, the other part that's frustrating about our league is just like again,
the same thoughts.
We've been talking about the same player. Everyone in this show has been talking about these players for 2 months now, so they all know exactly how I think. They know how you think.
Yep.
They know how you think, Jay. They know how Lawrence thinks about players, and so it's it was annoying. It was very annoying. Yeah. Producer Adam was by far the most annoying in terms of his draft.
Yeah, I knew Lawrence was minus 50,000 to take Lamar Jackson at pick 3. That's just the way it's going to happen.
1,000%.
And he did.
Yes, of course he did.
Let's look at the wide receivers that are going later than that, and this is once again Matthew's rankings compared to Yahoo ADP on the board here. So Terry McLaurin, 53 for you, 77.5.
Dude, come on.
He's the number one wide receiver in an offense that doesn't have a lot of pass catchers.
Right. And with a much better quarterback, and they're going to throw deep, and it's going to be a pass-first, fantasy-friendly offense under Cliff Kingsbury.
Xavier Worthy, 64 for you.
This is just a joke.
About 110 on Yahoo. He was one yesterday in our draft. I remember we all looked around and said, "Wow, he was still on the board." Whenever somebody took him, he just got lost in the draft machine. Yeah. Calvin Ridley, 66 for you.
Yeah.
Outside the top 90. Rome Odunze, 76 for you. He's going around 100th overall.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr., 84th for you, 120.
Brian Thomas is going to play every snap.
He's turned it on the last couple weeks at camp, too.
He's going to play every snap.
Yeah. He's just too good, too talented.
Yeah. And the other thing is, again, I'll do a rankings update even later today, but some of these guys, like Rashee Rice, going back to the Yahoo list, I have Rashee Rice at wide receiver 25. Yahoo has him at wide receiver 33. And Rashee Rice is going to go higher than wide receiver 25 now that we have the news that, again, this is what we've been talking about, that I don't think, what I've been saying for the last 2 months is I don't think a decision on any potential suspension for Rashee Rice will happen until next year, because the NFL generally likes to wait out the legal process and sort of see what happens there before they make any decision on disciplinary action within the league. And then that exact NFL Network comes out and reports that exact thing. So as opposed to just sort of that was my speculation, or that's what history has dictated. That's usually how the NFL operates. NFL Network came out yesterday and said, this is exactly the plan for Rashee Rice. The league does not want to do anything with Rice until the legal process plays out, and then they will see what the result of that court case is, and then they will make a determination if a suspension is warranted.
Yep. Last year, Calvin Ridley was going as wide receiver 16 going into drafts. This year he's going as wide receiver 35. And so obviously, we have a full season of data in between, new context and everything, but that's still a massive change that I don't think is warranted.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's other people underestimating two things. I think they're underestimating the fact that it's now another year of Ridley. Now he's, I don't want to say he wasn't in football shape, but there was definitely some rust last year.
We were drops that he wouldn't normally make.
Yeah, he's been in the game for a while. Right.
And I also think people are just Tennessee. They're, that's not your dad's Tennessee Titans.
Not buying into Will Levis. They're not buying into the changes with the staff. Everybody wants to see it before they're comfortable with it.
It's not your 1 year older than you older brother's Tennessee Titans. It's going to be a different team to last year.
Absolutely.
Will Levis, I think, is going to be good.
I agree with you. Tighten up.
Tighten up.
Last one here, Jay. Rome Odunze. I mean, we saw it with all those guys. Worthy, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr. all pushed down the board because they're rookies in the default ranks. It feels like people forget Rome Odunze was a top 10 pick in this draft, despite having Keenan Allen and DJ Moore technically on the depth chart ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, he would be the third favorite to be the number one guy out of those three, but I think that is very within the range of outcomes for Rome Odunze to end up as the number 2 receiver on the Bears, be it through Keenan Allen getting older in a hurry or one of those two guys getting hurt. Keenan Allen gets hurt all the time. And I think that Allen in particular, his stats were just so inflated last year by the fact that there was no other options for Justin Herbert in the passing game. So Odunze, I mean, we saw the connection that they have in preseason. Like, he's not just going to be an afterthought. They took him in the top 10. They're going to use him. Caleb Williams is going to throw the ball to Rome Odunze.
Yeah, the only I think Odunze insanely talented, right? And I think the injury concerns on Keenan Allen are completely legitimate. The anti-Odunze argument, although obviously I have him significantly higher because at some point you just bank on talent. You just bank on talent, and as we talked about, the talent is not in question. The opportunity is what's slightly in question. But at 76 overall, like I have an 8th round pick. I have an 8th round grade on Rome Odunze. Like, that's fine, you know. But like Yahoo has him going outside the top 100 basically, and the only argument that you could take is that you're like, well, Jackson Smith-Njigba was the most talented wide receiver in the draft class last year, and he just couldn't produce fantasy-wise under Shane Waldron because, again, they had 3 guys there. But I think it's a different situation. Honestly, I think Caleb Williams this year is going to be better than Geno Smith was last year, and I think that that Odunze, I mean, I don't know, you can talk to this, but like as much as we like Jackson Smith-Njigba, I feel like Odunze is a step ahead.
It's a bigger perimeter target, you know, can play inside and outside, can kind of be that alpha wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to scheme a lot of things around him. You can you saw it right there, Caleb Williams, throw him the ball when he's covered. And he'll go up and make a play. Contested catch monster.
We talked to Odunze at the Super Bowl.
He was awesome.
Loved the kid as well. It's surprising. I mean, Connor, you and I did.
Yep.
Jay didn't like him, and you know how I know? Because Jay didn't crop out us of a picture with Rome Odunze.
No, he didn't even go to the desk.
No,
he said, I want nothing to do with this dude.
I was actually at the Sphere with Puka.
Makes sense.
Yeah, watching U2.
For the second time.
Yeah.
You just kept seeing U2
But
in the Sphere.
Puka's favorite song is
But
Elevation.
the Odunze story is it's like what was the story? Like he punctured his lung in a game and he couldn't
fly. Like medically, he wasn't cleared to fly.
So he drove. He rented a car or whatever.
I think it was cross states.
Like cross state. Right. I want to say like from Nevada to California or something like that. Something insane.
Pretty good drive.
Right. He drove so he could play in
Yep.
He's that dude.
Worked out with their basketball team.
Yeah.
Just to high point the ball. He did rebounding drills. He's very just different. It's gonna work. Let's just say that.
Rome Odunze is that dude.
Yeah. If you're in a keeper league, you should have all 3 of these guys circled because they could bring back huge. You get one in the 9th or 10th round. Next year you have a free wide receiver 2 or whatever it may be.
And then the last one also is just Xavier Worthy. I mean, like just. We've seen, they've made a point of it. They're going to throw deep to him. He's playing with the best quarterback in football. He's a deep threat. I know they've got Marquise Brown. We've got Rice and Kelsey. A lot of mouths to feed, but still, like Xavier. We have seen talented rookies under Andy Reid produce, and so Xavier Worthy. I think you're betting on talent and the quarterback.
I think Xavier Worthy could be the man we wanted Gabe Davis to be for the past 3 years in terms of production.
Yeah.
Let's see how the wide receivers stack up on ESPN ADPs, because that was all at Yahoo. So this is Matthew's rankings.
Yeah.
Drake London, wide receiver 10. He's 15 on ESPN. Deebo Samuel, 14 for Matthew, 18 on ESPN. A big difference for Jalen Waddle. Wide receiver 15 for you. I don't know how you could have Jalen Waddle wide receiver 24.
That's so weird.
That's an odd one. Cooper Kupp, we've really hammered home on this show. Wide receiver 17 for Matthew. He's outside the top 20 on ESPN. The last one, Rashee Rice. This one is going to probably propel upwards after yesterday, but he's wide receiver 25 for you, Matthew. Still wide receiver 32 on ESPN.
Yeah, again, those ADPs just make no sense to me at all. Waddle is the real head scratcher at wide receiver 24. Rice going outside the top 30 is crazy, and then Kupp going outside the top 20. Kupp could be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. I mean, it's
points
easy.
per game. You know what you're getting.
1,000%.
Let's look at the later wide receivers. Once again, Matthew's rankings up against ESPN ADP. Christian Kirk, I'm going to stop right at this one because this is insane. 51 for you, Matthew. 96 on ESPN for Christian Kirk. Why is he going so late in full PPR?
I have no idea. He was a little bit banged up last year, and
they added players. Is that the thought?
He's got the Q next to his name this year again.
Maybe that's what it is. Again, banged up last year, in and out of the lineup, and somewhat banged up this year. They add Brian Thomas. They signed Gabe Davis, so maybe there's concern about increased target competition, and but that's a bizarre one to me. Like, again, we've talked about this a lot of times on this show, but like when I interviewed Doug Peterson at the Combine, like he specifically brought up Christian Kirk and felt like they didn't get nearly enough out of Christian Kirk last year and that was their fault. Partially it was health, but also just because Zay Jones was so hurt, they constantly had to play Christian Kirk on the outside, which is not where he's comfortable. Where he's really effective is in the slot. They want to get him in the slot and have him play the majority of the snaps there where he is so effective. Being in the slot is kind of a cheat code. Kirk signed a big deal. Like, they like him a lot. He's a talented wide receiver, and so now that you've got Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis on the outside, Kirk's just going to be able to eat in the middle and just, with a fully healthy Trevor Lawrence too. Lawrence was banged up too. It's a whole lost season for the Jaguars. Like, they just sort of grinded it out.
Yeah, there's this thing with Christian Kirk and Josh Palmer where it's like these guys are both clear favorites to be the number one option for Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert, and they're both going outside. I mean, Josh Palmer's going outside the top 45 of wide receivers, and Kirk's going outside the top 30.
Let's move over to the quarterbacks, and we'll start with Yahoo.
Real quickly, Deontay Johnson, I'm at 63. He's going at 93 on ESPN. That's another one. Like, everything you've heard out of Carolina is the passing offense goes through this guy. He's going to get a massive target share from an improved quarterback and an improved offense.
Yeah, if you're playing PPR, you have to be in on Deontay Johnson.
I have so much Deontay Johnson this year. Yeah. Somebody else took him from me in our league, but I have a lot of shares of Deontay Johnson.
Just a lot of buzz about the Panthers in general in the betting world. Their price is collapsing in terms of making the playoffs, a lot of activity behind that. I mean, they could be a competent offense, a competent team, and they weren't anything close to that last year.
What are and Canales Coach of the Year odds? Are they shrinking as well?
No, which they should be. Those things should be in lockstep.
Right.
I'm going to keep on saying it. Dave Canales can't be 18-1 to win Coach of the Year when they're like plus 500 to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they go from 2 wins to 9+ wins. He has to win that award. Barring something like completely insane. Like, yeah, if the Lions go 17-0 or whatever. But like outside of massive outliers, Canales, he should be the favorite for the award.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a chance to win $1 million in the NBC sweepstakes on Yahoo Fantasy. Just download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion for additional details. What are you waiting for?
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.